Hello and welcome to the first homeschool show and tell of 2025. This time, we're all sharing our top resources in a top 3 homeschool roundup. The homeschool show and tell is hosted each month by Abby from Rooted in Rest and Jessica from the Waldock Way. You can find the entire playlist linked in the description below. Hello, I'm Mary Wilson. I'm so glad you are joining me for this homeschool favorite resource roundup. I was trying to think about what top 3 I might share with you, and I thought since I am an online book club teacher for kids, it would make sense if I did a roundup of my top 3 books. But I have to be honest, having to choose a top 3 from all of the books in the world is very difficult. I have tried it. In fact, my favorite books for each grade level are linked in a guide below. But what I decided to do to put a little twist on this roundup is I am sharing my favorites of books that I own. So I had to physically have these books in my collection on my shelf to be able to share them in this roundup. So that was the deciding factor for a lot of titles. As you can see, I have all of my chapter books over here and they continue down here, and these are all graphic novels. I teach a weekly graphic novel class online, and I teach monthly fiction book clubs for ages 8 to 10, ages 11 to 13, and then a teen book club as well. So I'm going to share my favorites from those age groups. Let's start with the graphic novels. Now, the graphic novels I picked probably fall in the tween age group, which is like ages 8 to 12. So they are in no particular order. All right. It's hard enough to choose my top 3. I definitely couldn't then put them in order 1, 2, and 3. That's just too much narrowing down. So one of my favorites is El Defo. El Defo was a Newbery Honor Book the year that it was published. And this is the memoir of the author growing up as a deaf child. She actually loses her hearing because of a health-related issue in her childhood. And it's her experience really in school, connecting with friends, learning to use a bionic ear. So the teacher kind of has a microphone and she has a hearing aid there, and navigate all of the social situations. This is an excellent memoir to really help kids understand someone who has a very different experience of the world. It's particularly special for my family because my mom was an interpreter in the school system for deaf students for many, many years. And when my mom was at my house, she actually read this book. I mean, years ago when I was reading it to my kids and I had gotten it for them. I think my daughter may have been in 5th or 6th grade. So, and she's now 20. So my mom read this and was like, oh my goodness, this is one of the best books I've ever read to capture the experience of what it's like to be a deaf child. And she had to read a lot of books for school and college. So there's a recommendation from her on this one as well. All right, the next one I chose is actually one in a series of 3 books that are short story graphic novels, and I love them. The Explorer series has 3 titles so far. This is the first one, The Mystery Boxes. And the author who has compiled the short stories is actually the author of a very popular graphic novel series, Amulet. So he gives different graphic novel authors the prompt, The Mystery Boxes, and they write a story that fits that prompt. What I particularly love about these is just how unique they are to have short story graphic novels. So in one book, you have all sorts of different art styles. This is his. If you're a fan of the Amulet series, you recognize that art style right there. And you can get to know some different graphic artists. You can look them up, see if they have other books. You may see some art styles that you recognize as you're going through. But I really love these. In fact, every year in my weekly graphic novel book club, so far, we're about to run out because we're doing the 3rd one this year. We end the year with these books for 2 weeks. We discuss 3 of the stories, then 4 of the stories. And it's always been a lot of fun to see different artists convey a story based on the same prompt. All right. And finally, we have one that is near and dear to my heart. It's one of the first graphic novels I remember reading and just really loving. It might even be the first title I ever chose to discuss online in my weekly graphic novel book club, and that is Zeta the Space Girl. This is just a classic, fun, science fiction, approachable book full of fun characters, and I really loved it. The author of this one, Ben Hackey, has a ton of fantastic graphic novels. He has another series called Mighty Jack, and at some point they have a crossover where Zeta and Mighty Jack have a book together. So that's a really fun series to check out. All right, let's continue on with my top 3 for elementary school. And since I teach 8 to 10-year-olds, these are probably going to be on the older end of elementary school, not kindergarten through 3rd grade as much. All right, again, they are in no particular order. And what I tried to do is pick a variety, so from different genres, because of course we're all attracted to a particular genre, and it's easy for me to start grabbing things off the shelf and realize I'm always picking a certain type of book because it's what I love. So I did force myself to kind of expand and pick favorites in different genres. All right, we're going to start off with one of my favorite middle grades author. That's ages 8 to 12, the middle grades, Gordon Korman. This book, Restart, is such a fun one for upper elementary and even middle school. The main character in this book has an accident in which they lose their memory. And when they return to school, he doesn't quite understand why everyone seems to be afraid of him. He basically has forgotten that he's a bully. And he now has a chance to be a different person and make different choices. I thought it was a really insightful book that provided a lot of great conversation. All right, and you can't go wrong with this author. I've read several of his now, and I'm never disappointed. Next, we have a really fun fantasy, Wings of Fire. I know this is a really popular series, but I want to tell you, when I listened to this, my kids who were in the car with me on our drive to Florida were like 18, 16, and 14. And I was like, hey, we're just going to listen to this book. I need to listen to it for work. It should be pretty good. It has dragons in it. You know, I didn't force anyone. I was like, you can be on your devices, do whatever you like. They all loved it. They were so engaged with this book. I remember arriving in Florida and they were like, oh my gosh, it's not done. What are we going to do? And we would listen to it some in the house at my parents' house because they wanted to finish it up. It's about 5 dragonettes, little dragons who have grown up away from everyone else, and they don't understand why. They escape. There's a lot going on. I loved the different personalities of these 5 dragons and the adventures they're going to go on. The first 5 books are really kind of the first set of the story. It continues on many, many, many books past that, but I think it moves on to different dragons. So you could just read the first 5. Those are the only ones I have read personally, but I really loved this one. All right, then we have, this is my top favorite, Poppy. And this probably would appeal to the younger set as well, though my daughter, we did this for her book club when she was in 5th grade. I think this holds such a near and dear place in my heart. Because first, it was the first time I had heard about the hero's journey. We actually used this story, the mom who was hosting used this story to look at Joseph Campbell's The Hero's Journey with our group of 5th and 6th graders. And I loved looking at it through that lens. And I think for that reason, it holds a really special place in my heart. But then I just also love the characters, particularly Ragweed, which if you read, oh, not Ragweed, I'm sorry, the porcupine. I can't remember his name now. But the porcupine is so much fun in here. This is actually book 2 in the series, but I recommend you start with book 2 because something really bad happens to the main character of book 1 at the start of book 2. So if you start with book 1, the opening chapter of this book is really devastating. We started with book 2 and eventually went back and read book 1 as a prequel, which is, I think, actually how it was written. And that worked really well. But you can continue on the adventures. We loved this book so much as a family. We have an owl on our Christmas tree, Mr. Okex, that I bought that year as kind of a memory of our time in that book. All right, let's move on to middle school. You just got a little glimpse. All right, this one is actually upper elementary into middle school. I love it with 6th graders, and that is the book Holes. Again, I have fond memories. I think a lot of these books, they are my favorites because of the memories I associate with reading them. I read this out loud to a classroom of 5th graders when I was teaching elementary school, and we all loved it. We were engaged. The story has some fun twists. I didn't see how they were going to connect everything, but as all the little pieces start to come together at the end, I was blown away. I loved it. It is a Newbery winner. Yes, it is a Newbery winner as well, and it has a movie that goes along with it. They've turned it into a movie. Sigourney Weaver's in it, and it's actually an excellent film adaptation, in my opinion. It's a lot of fun. It captures the spirit of the book very well, the characters, and it's humorous. Basically, this boy has been convicted of a crime, and he is sent to Camp Green Lake, where juvenile criminals go, and they have to dig a hole every day. But there is more going on at Camp Green Lake, and that's what you're going to find out in this book. Okay, my next one for middle school, Refugee. Again, fantastic author. I think in 8th grade, my son binged all of his books. He just adored them. Historical fiction books. This one was the first one that I encountered with this author. I read it out loud to my kids. 3 different stories of 3 different refugees in 3 different time periods of history, and they are woven together creatively, brilliantly. It is a difficult book as well. Not everyone makes it. So it can be difficult for sensitive readers. So just know that. I read it out loud with my kids. We could kind of discuss it. I could kind of monitor feelings at that time. But just know that a lot of historical stories had a lot of tragedy in them. And this one in particular had some really, really sad moments. So just know that that is a heads up. Okay. And then I know I said I was going to try different genres, but I couldn't resist another historical fiction that is so suspenseful. When I read this out loud to my kids, nobody wanted me to put it down. Every chapter, we just wanted to keep going. So this takes place the night the Berlin Wall goes up in Berlin, in Germany, and divides it into 2 sections, East and West. And the main character, Gerda, Gerda's family is on different sides. And so it is the story of her wanting to get to her father and brother and how they accomplish that goal. Again, not everyone makes it. So a character you meet near the end is actually going to die. So it's not someone you've been attached to the whole story, but it is a really sad death. So I want to give another heads up about that. Another fantastic author for middle school to check out. Now, since I shoved 2 historical fictions into this category, and I said I wouldn't do that, I decided to give you a bonus in the middle school, and that is When You Reach Me. This one just shocked me. I love a book that has all these puzzle pieces that come together in the end, where you don't know quite what's going on, and at the end you're like, oh, what's going on? Not to mention, this was so much fun. It takes place the $1,000 pyramid or $10,000 pyramid, whatever that game show was. The mom in the book is trying to practice for it and train for it to be on the show. So that was really fun to introduce the kids to. And it's science fiction, and you don't quite know what's happening, and I love it. The main character loves A Wrinkle in Time, and there's some references to that. Rebecca Stead, the author, writes also excellent literature for kids, so definitely check her out. But there's your bonus, since I did 2 historical fictions. Okay, our final category is for your older readers. So these are going to be 9th grade and up, because all of these books have content warnings, mainly violence. I tend to stay away from anything too romantic in literature for teenagers. We do some romance in this house, but the details of any physical activity need to be very mild until my kids are more the 17, 18-year-old range. So these come with violent or language warnings. Number one, The Martian. Yes, I did read out loud to my high schoolers. And this was one of our favorites. I actually had it in my to be read pile, and I said to them, y'all are getting old enough. Let's read this science fiction together. It's really for me, but let's see how it goes. We all loved it. And at that time, they did not have the classroom edition. So I did read the one full of all the language, but since I was reading out loud, I could edit as I wanted to, or not edit if I wanted to shock them. But this is a fantastic book. The classroom edition turns all of the curse words into other words. So, I mean, you'll know what they're meant to be, but it was excellent. You can see we did it in our teen book club this year because I have it all annotated up for discussion. Love this book. Next, this one comes with all sorts of violence warnings because any good dystopic tale does. Scythe is a dystopic book that I don't think gets talked about enough. It was the winner of the Prince Award, which is like the Newbery for young adult literature. Basically, everyone can live forever. And so the job of the Scythes is to kill people. They have to meet a certain quota to prevent overpopulation. And obviously, anytime, and they're supposed to be like all noble, but anytime people have that much power and control in society, things are bound to go poorly. This is the first in a series of 3. The first time I read it, I only read this one. Now I have finished the whole trilogy. This is still my favorite. But AI is also involved in this society, especially in the second and third book, even more so because you hear from the AI a lot. You don't in book 1. So that's kind of fun with everything going on in our society today too. So high school readers, but please know, very violent, but very, very good. And finally, another author I love for young adults. This is historical fiction. You definitely want to check this author out. This one is about communist Romania and the Romania Revolution. The Romanian Revolution. Nikolai Chekhov. I don't remember the name. We did listen to the audio. And all of us were completely captivated. Again, was with my high schoolers. I think my youngest was in middle school. And the audio was fantastic. It was so well done. But I highly recommend this author in general. This book in particular, I think has been my favorite by her. She tends to take lesser known events in history and bring them to life. Obviously violence. This one has a little bit of romance. The main character has a girl he's interested in. They do kiss a few times, I think. Nothing is real descriptive. It's very brief, but that is part of his story in this book as well. There is torture, communist regime. So excellent book, and it takes place at the time of the overthrowing of the government. So there's a lot of hope in the end. All right. That was everything. Thank you so much for joining me for my top 3 roundup of fantastic literature for kids, tweens, and teens. You can check out the full playlist and see what other people are sharing. And if you're interested in any of my online book clubs, you can check them out in the links. There's also a guide there where I did do my favorite books by age. That was a hard one to do, that you can grab if you want to check out some more titles. And if you have some favorites in your own house, as always, leave a comment. I love to add to my collections.